back to the Dignitea, where we take today's tea and infuse it with dignity. I'm your host, Madeleine Jones, and I'm here with
Maddie here.
Maddie Hare. What kind of tea are you drinking?
Today's a water day for me.
It's
How
a
about
water
you?
day. I'm coffee, so there's no tea. We're bad.
Dang.
We're
Sorry.
bad Boston Harbor people. No tea. All right. Well, today we are going to discuss cancel culture,
Ooh.
specifically on Clean Talk. I'm really excited about this because I'm a huge fan of Clean Talk. Like, I would like look at everything that they had, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because my house was too dirty, or I wanted like an easy way to do it. But there's one creator I had never heard of until we were talking about this the other day. Kylie Perkins. You want to give us a little rundown on who Kylie Perkins is?
Yeah, so first of all, what Clean Talk is basically this like influencer thing where you get motivated to clean your house. And Kylie Perkins is, I would say, strong-willed influencer because she kind of like yells at you and she's like, you gotta get up and do the dishes because nobody's gonna tell you to do them. And some people need that like intense energy to get that motivation. But she's become like pretty controversial because unfortunately who she follows on her Instagram, not even like necessarily what she says, that too, but like also her politics have kind of gotten involved and gotten her into a little bit of trouble with cancel culture.
Okay, let's go back here because I saw a screenshot. She has the most amazing hair, by the way. I also think I don't know if Kylie Perkins is her real name, but if not, like that sounds like Katy Perry, like Kylie Perkins. Like it's such a good stage name.
Yeah.
So if not, good job to your parents, Kylie. Excellent, excellent. Um, but it seems like she is not about the gentle parenting techniques for cleaning, right?
Quite the opposite.
Give me like think back to one of her videos and kind of tell me what she said.
One of them just said like you have to make your bed every day, or else like you're gonna have a totally unproductive day, and like if you start your day like this, like your whole day is gonna be better. And it's the simplest thing. It's not even hard. Just make your bed. You know, kind of like, or all you have to do is wash your sheets once a week. It's gross if you don't, you know, just kind of harassing you about the way that you live your life. And for some people, they're like, oh, you're right. Like, I do need to get going and, like, be a little harder on myself.
Yeah, that's funny because I probably wouldn't say that, but like, I get it. I make my bed every day.
I try to.
Yeah. I didn't make it today though. I could have used some Kylie Perkins this morning.
Dang.
I don't know. That reminds me of like Joe Peterson.
Hey, if that works for you.
Or Jordan Peterson. Sorry, we're not on a first Joe name basis.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
What I like though is that we've seen kind of a reaction to who she's following. So tell me a little bit more about the controversy. Why is she controversial?
So somebody found out that she only followed like 400 people and President Donald Trump was one of them. And so they're like, oh, obviously she's a Trump supporter. And then they said, well, we can't be following somebody that's following Trump. Even though like she hadn't really talked anything about politics in any of her videos, but just the fact that she followed Donald Trump kind of made everybody freak out. And now people are posting a lot of reaction videos to her saying like, well, she doesn't support women, you know, she doesn't support the lifestyle that we choose, so therefore why are we helping her make a living through her work?
Yeah, so basically because they think that her political ideologies are conservative based off of who she's following, it's now go and follow her just like for your information, this is what's going on.
Right.
What I find really interesting about that though is that she has more followers than ever. And like when I was looking at the comments section, a lot of these videos did not have a lot of likes, but the comments they would have thousands and thousands of comments, and almost all of them were like, "I just followed her. I just followed her. I just followed her," which is very ironic because she doesn't run a political channel; she runs a cleaning channel, and now people are following her because people don't like her political ideology. And I think this is one of those things where, um, it's like one of those segments of culture where contempt does backfire.
Yeah.
Because when you do this cancel culture, it's one thing when you're canceling someone based off of like, I guess it's not one thing, but I've seen cancel culture where it's not about, oh, you follow Donald Trump, so I'm unfollowing you because I'm assuming you're a MAGA person.
It's something way more direct than that usually.
Yeah, it's usually like, you said this, I don't like that.
Right.
And so it's interesting to see how trying to get people to dislike her or unfollow her because of this assumption has totally backfired. And now, like, we're sitting here making a video about Kylie Perkins.
Yeah, in a way, I think that is a really good thing because Americans are rejecting. I think, first of all, cancel culture, I think, is kind of rooted in contempt. You know, who you voted for means that you are a bad person, you know, some version of that. And so I do like that Americans are deciding to reject that. I wish it was more of a two-sided trend because I wish everybody would reject, you know, basing how you feel about somebody's career and them as a person as a whole based on like who they voted for in this instance. Um, yeah, I think it's interesting how people really decided to support her and they're like, well, that's a stupid reason for her to be harassed, so we're actually going to make her life better. And I think her Instagram followers like doubled or something. So,
Yeah, I mean, I do love the irony of something like this, where first of all, totally didn't work to try to get people to unfollow her because she voted for Trump. Actually, we don't even know that she voted for Trump because she's following Trump.
mm-hmm.
Um, I was gonna say something else, but I totally forgot.
One other thing I wanted to touch on is I thought it was interesting how some people do posts about her that aren't necessarily political. Like they'll just say like stop harassing her for what she's posting. For some people, like getting yelled at to clean their house is like literally what they need. And for some people it's like okay, totally counterproductive. Like me personally, I don't respond well to that. I wouldn't like somebody yelling at me to clean my house. Somebody
Like,
being
who are you?
yeah, I'm like, who are you, random influencer person that like
Yeah.
thinks they're better than me? I don't like that mentality at all. But if somebody's like, oh yeah, you got it, like here's a way to help organize yourself, like, you know, the gentle parenting or whatever, like maybe that might work for me. But it's like there are people posting videos recognizing that like it takes a different strategy for a different person and it's okay if that doesn't resonate with you and that doesn't mean that you have to attack her for it. And I did appreciate that.
Definitely. So I thought it was kind of interesting because we saw a couple of people calling out, basically saying this is ridiculous. So, and there were a couple of points made that I thought was really interesting. One woman had pointed out that Trump had won the popular vote.
Mm-hmm.
Another person was like, "Don't you guys see the tides are shifting? Like, you need to stop
Sure.
with this whole kind of reactionary takes on things."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was interesting because in those videos, the contempt was there. It was like, you guys are idiots for doing this. Like, stop doing it. But I also feel like there was a grain of truth, and I feel like this often happens sometimes with contempt, is it's usually like a reaction to some sort of pain. And so I think that one of the interesting things is calling out that a lot of people voted for Trump. He won every swing state,
Mm-hmm.
and that just trying to ignore these people or cancel them isn't going to work because they're the majority. And that's one thing I love about Dignity is, and here's me going like off about the Dignity books again, but a lot of people say that Dignity doesn't work because you need to win people over to your side.
Mm-hmm.
But every successful like social change that we look on fondly always respects the dignity of the other side, right? Yeah. So if you don't have a plan for protecting the dignity of the other side, the chances of your social movement working are probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And as like a bleeding heart liberal, I feel like we're totally just I don't know. I like we're it's unproductive to think that we can like tell people they're racist, misogynistic, idiots,
Mm-hmm.
into becoming Democrats or like voting the way that I like to vote, right? If I'm in a conversation. Not that I'm trying to change people's minds, but it's like even just that general zeitgeist attitude is pretty unproductive, I think.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons that Republicans took the election and won the House and the Senate and the presidency is because people were rejecting feeling left out and pushed out. Like, I think the Republicans took a very good strategy in inviting people over to their side. I saw that especially with like young men, young white men, or just people that might, young men in general tended to be a little bit more left, like as young people do. And they took a big swing to the right in this election. And I think that's because they were invited to and they felt targeted and canceled and pushed out by the left. And so, like, they felt like that's, I don't even think that they felt like necessarily drawn by policy, but based on conversations I've had with a lot of young men, they felt kicked out of the left and like they weren't welcome there because of their identity. Um, I think liberals could learn something from that
Yeah.
if they want to win elections.
Well, this is something that Scott Galloway said. He's like, if you go to the Democratic Party's platform, they mention being for everyone, but they don't really mention like being for white men or like the working man. Which, when you think about like unions, like I think unions are very like Democratic usually. That's part of the Democratic Party.
Yep.
That is a huge supporter, and denying that is not very helpful. It's actually kind of funny because Pete Buttigieg, he said if we were more serious about, and Pete Buttigieg, he's a Democrat. I tried to vote for him in 2020 just for everything, and then he backed out right before.
He dropped out right before Utah's
I'm so bummed out.
primaries.
I'm a huge Pete Buttigieg fan.
And then he went on to be the Secretary of Transportation for the Biden administration.
For sure. And a cultural icon. He says, if we were more serious about the actual values and not caught up in vocabularies and tried to cater to everybody only in terms of their particular slice of combination of identities. I don't know. I feel like he put that very well. I like Pete.
One of my biggest criticisms of the left is that they support diversity in every aspect except for diversity of thought, diversity of opinion. And that's not all encompassing, obviously, but that's where cancel culture stems from. Oh, you disagree with us? You don't belong here. You know what I mean? And so I think that's what he was getting to at that point, is saying like, we need to focus on big problems that Americans care about and come together and try to get those things done. But instead, we've been like too nitpicky and too particular and like not looking at the big picture enough. I think that's what went wrong in this election, is Democrats were more focused on issues that Americans at whole were not on board with, instead of like, I'm focused on the economy and immigration. Turns out that's what Americans cared about. You know what I mean? And if we focus on issues that are too niche and we cancel everybody that doesn't agree with us, like, you're not going to win an election. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So I agree with him on that.
One of my favorite things, this is like back to the clean talk thing, but one of the creators, he was like, I couldn't even watch TV without making a comment on this. And he was talking about people canceling Kylie Perkins for his political beliefs. And he's like, you guys need to go outside and touch grass, basically. This is what he said. And I kind of agree with that. Like, sometimes you can get so bogged down in this internet stuff that you're like, ooh, I think we all need to, like, take a deep breath and, like, enter our communities. Like,
yeah.
I do think this is a loneliness epidemic thing sometimes with the cancel culture.
Totally.
Anyways, I thought it was funny because he was basically like, check your emotional baggage at the TikTok sign-on page. Like, he's like, this is an entertainment platform, and I thought that was hilarious. Anyways, that has nothing to do with dignity or contempt. I just really liked it. Yeah, good attitude, dude. Another example of cancel culture, though, is like these Reddit threads. So the other day, I saw a post that basically had a graph of all of these businesses that are supposedly like Trump supporters.
Oh,
I don't even understand. Or the owners are Trump supporters?
Sure.
And this like freaked me out because they were like, don't shop at these stores. And the upsetting thing is these were all small businesses. Like, and I was like, wouldn't it be better to support your community of small businesses? Because if you don't go shop for your fish hooks there, aren't you just gonna go to Amazon? Wouldn't it be better to go to like a random fish store?
Yeah.
I don't know. This was like a wild one to me, but also, what's scary about this is that when you do, when you're saying like, okay, boycott these stores or don't follow this clean talk girl because she's supposedly a Trump supporter, you make a lot of assumptions. And so, from the Kylie Perkins thing, it's because she followed Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I follow Donald Trump on all platforms.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that's part of my job, and also I want to know what's going on because he's the president of the United States.
Yep. I had to remind myself of that sometimes, like, especially a couple years ago when I would pay a little bit more attention and kind of judge people for, like, who they were following. I used to be like that person, and I was just like, you know what? I actually don't know why they're following them. Like, why would I assume that it's because they like them? Because I found out that some of my best friends followed somebody that I really disagreed with, and they're like, well, I want to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't think of that. It's not necessarily you supporting them, but yeah, I think it's important that we're allowed to know what's going on without like being supportive of that person, and I think that's actually a good thing for us to be better informed instead of just being like, well, I don't support this person, so I'm gonna shield myself from everything they say, and then it's like you're kind of pushing yourself into this like little echo chamber if you do that. So I would say like good for you and anybody that follows people they disagree with for being exposed to that.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to touch on was how would I feel if I was being canceled for who I voted for? I've had to be relatively quiet about my politics because of the career path that I want. I do want a little bit of a neutral career path where I can appeal to everybody. And so I have done my best to work for Republicans and Democrats, independents, everything in between to get that perspective and stack my resume with people that can kind of be all over the board. But I am afraid of what would happen to me if somebody's like, oh, look who she voted for. You know what I mean? And I were denied an opportunity or somebody were to attack my career path, my family. It's not fair and it's not I don't think it's what Americans should stand for.
Yeah, I think, like, there's always more to the story, right? Than your local sandwich shop being on, like, a Republican platform or a Trump platform. It's like maybe they disagree with everything Trump says,
Yeah.
but they like that their business might be doing a little bit better. And when you think about it, when you think about people's livelihoods, that's usually going to be the most important thing.
Yeah. I've taken that opportunity to put myself in somebody else's shoes and be like, oh, they voted for Biden? Why? They voted for Trump? Why? Think about their upbringing. You know, sometimes it's because, say, they voted for Trump because their perception is that he's going to fix the economy and he's going to help small businesses. Or maybe it was the same thing with Biden in 2020. Like, you have no idea why somebody voted for what they did. And usually it's probably not the reasons that you think. You know, perceptions are different, upbringings are different. And so I hope that if people find out who I vote for, they're going to give me that grace of being like, she had a good reason for why she voted for him or her, and it's not my fears about that person being projected onto them.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like the moral of the story. If something seems so incredibly simple as we're not supporting these people who are Trump people, or they may be, even though like this is terrifying too, because what if you're like, I don't know what you're like a small business and people are trying to boycott you and you're like, I don't know what's going on here. Why are you trying to do this to me? Like I'm not a part of this.
Yeah.
But I think the moral of the story is a lot of times things are a little more complex than people summarize it to be. So if at the end of the day it's this person voted this way or this person has some indication that they support a political candidate and so you don't support them, maybe try and think of other like reasons they could be interested in that person. Because like I didn't vote for Trump and I have a very specific reason I didn't vote for Trump and it's because these things I dislike more than the positive qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And for other people they have different motivations and that's fine. So that's kind of like my final like thought is like maybe don't pigeonhole people into one trait.
I actually have a funny side note about that. I feel like I get like mini canceled all the time. because all of my liberal friends think that I'm like definitely a closeted conservative or like right wing, and then all of my Republican friends think that I'm a communist. And the truth is, I'm like very middle of the road.
You're like that girl from White Lotus, where they're talking about Trump being an independent. We'll put a clip in here.
Okay, well,
But
we'll get into that.
they're like, "Are you a Trump supporter?" And she was like, "I'm an independent." It's great. I love
Yeah.
that scene. It was perfect. Anyways,
I definitely lean one way, but I like to keep it quiet and keep people wondering. And it's just interesting to hear like both the support I get from one side and also the pushback depending on the context. And being able to, I feel like I get to like be part of both sides, like see everything from like the inside and just like feel what it feels like. And I think that gives me more compassion towards like those that I disagree with and those that are frustrated too.
for sure.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I think life's more fun when you're like, okay, there may be more to the story here.
Yeah.
And a little less serious.
Yeah.
All right. What did we miss here? Any thoughts about clean talk and the Republican takeover? Let us know in the comments down below. Spill the tea. And we'll catch you next week.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
60.